And we are not dealing with it on a short-term basis. We are dealing with it in a sustainable manner. My first assignment the last 5 months was to consolidate and stabilize the economy of our country that had been battered by reckless borrowing and unnecessary subsidies. That is why today the economy of Kenya has stabilized, and I want to assure all our citizens that we will not go back to reckless borrowing. We will not go back to subsidies that benefit brokers, cartels, and people who are politically correct. We will not go back there.
Can you tell the Kenyan people that there is no extra hand of pressure on the Kenyan government by the International Monetary Fund?
My good friend, the International Monetary Fund does not run the government of Kenya. I do. IMF does not make decisions for the government of Kenya. I do. IMF are our partners. They work with us on our priorities. They work with us on our proposals. They support us where they can. They give us advice where they can, but ultimately, we make the decisions ourselves. And it is not up to IMF to see how to sort out the 680 billion that we have on the road sector. It is not up to any other person. It is up to us. When I get out of this office and go to this village and that constituency and that ward, it is not the IMF that is asked about roads. It is the government of Kenya that I run. So I think there is always this thinking that external factors dictate to us. I think you know me better. Mm-hmm. I can stand up to any pressure from any corner. Mm-hmm. I make the right decisions for our country.
So this country of ours, which you and me are equal stakes, right? We only have different jobs. Will not default. That one I want to give you my assurance. We are not in that position that we are going to default as a country. We will not. And the people of Kenya can be assured that our country will not default on our obligations. That is number one. And the reason why we will not default is because we have already applied brakes on any more borrowing. Our borrowing is going to be limited to only what we must borrow, right? Number two is because we are beginning the journey to grow our own savings and to grow our own revenues. Yeah, by making sure that we have a plan on how to expand our tax base, mm-hmm. by making sure that we digitize all government services and bring everybody into the net who is supposed to pay, making sure that the tax system is also friendly, making sure that our plan on saving is accelerated, as you have seen.
Ya kwamba Kenya ni nchi ya Mungu na maombi. Kenya sio nchi ya rege na bangi na waganga. Kenya ni nchi ya Mungu na maombi. Ninyi mnanielewa? Hiyo ndio Kenya, na Kenya itazidi kuwa ni nchi ambayo inamcha Mungu. Na msikuwe na wasiwasi. Hii rege na bangi na waganga tutawakomesha Kenya hii. Hawawezi.
Watch this space. What you have said is correct. So, and I am doing something about it. I don't want to speak about it now.
We'll see results then?
Yes, you will see results.
Mr. President,
I want to give you my commitment. I will clean up cancer. Whatever it takes.
Mr. President,
whatever it costs. The commitment I made to the people of Kenya is that I will build the institutions that will deal firmly and decisively with corruption. It is not going to go away in one day. We will have to put up a real fight. And as I do it at a personal level, we have to support the institutions that will help us deal with it as a way of ensuring sustainability. That is why I said the financial independence of the DCI, of the police, of the investigative agencies must get out of the office of the president. Let them run their budget, investigate whoever they want. And I have been very clear to the DPP. I have been very clear to my friends at EACC not to call me on any matter. And I also promised them I will not call them on any matter. Let them prosecute everybody that they want to prosecute. There were days that because somebody is senior or the president has to be informed, I told them I don't want to be informed. If somebody has been found guilty of anything, they should be dealt with in accordance with the law.
Major promises that Ruto has broken.
The Ruto-Gachagua government has been heavy on talk with little action, talking big and making more promises. While Ruto had pledged that his government would not be about creating positions for the elite, as had been proposed by his opponent through the BBI, the Kenya Kwanza administration has increased the number of principal secretaries and retained the chief administrative secretaries, a position established by his predecessor. Ruto promised that within the first 100 days, Kenya Kwanza will commission a review of remuneration and terms of service for all police officers to be commensurate with the cost of living and other civil servants. Ruto and Gachagua promised to work together with the health workers and county governments to find a solution within the first 100 days of their administration over their woes. Today, the working conditions of health workers have worsened with a strike notice not so long ago. That within 30 days they will form a quasi-judicial public inquiry to establish the extent of cronyism and state capture in the nation and make recommendations. That is yet to be seen again or heard. Kenya Kwanza committed to develop a turnaround strategy for Kenya Airways within 6 months of coming into office, but in a sharp contradiction. Kenya Airways is among the several state entities that the National Treasury has denied funding in the financial year starting July 1st. On judgments against the state, Ruto swore to determine within 60 days all judgments and orders against the government and make sure that the government abides by all court rulings. This remains on paper. They will double the amount of money allocated to school feeding program to immediately raise the number of beneficiaries from 2 million to 4 million. And to provide conditional grants to county governments to extend the program to raise the numbers to 8 million in primary and early childhood development schools. Ruto severally claimed that he won't create new executive positions because it's the turn to look after the welfare of Kenyans and ensure 50% of the cabinet comprises women, and that has yet to be achieved.
I do not want to point fingers at no administration. I do not want to say what happened in the last administration. I have said enough of it. I just want to speak to the present and to the future. And I want to tell my countrymen and women that I want to be held to account. I am ready. That is why I believe in accountability. For the first time, I am the one who pushed for the change of standing orders so that ministers of my administration can go to parliament and ask questions because we want accountability. As we talk, I am pushing so that we have an office in parliament of the leader of opposition funded by the government of Kenya to make sure that public resources are being used appropriately.
And
I appointed General Ogola. General Ogola is among the people who went to Bomas to try and overturn my victory. Do you know that? But because when I looked at his CV, he was the best person to be general. I called him and I sat him down. I told him, my friend, you went to Bomas to try and overturn my victory. But because you are the best person to be general, I'm going to give you the job. That is how it works with me. That's why I told you, if a person has the qualification, if he is the best for the job, I will give him the job.
But that is the military. There's a code of conduct for the military and how politics works in Kenya, Mr. President.
Let me tell you, my friend, I had the opportunity. I could have appointed anybody. I had, I think, 10 choices. I didn't have to. You know, there are people who say, oh, you know, William Ruto appointed Ogola because he was the deputy CDF. That's not the case. I made the decision consciously. And I made the decision against the advice of many people. Many people told me, you should not give this, you should not reward this kind of behavior.
Okay.
But, you know, I also must be sensitive. What exercised my mind? This gentleman has a good track record. And in fact, when I spoke to him, and it's not something that I should be talking about, but because you have asked a good question. What exercised my mind is this gentleman, yes, he may have made a mistake. Maybe because the commander-in-chief that time told him what to do. Maybe he... And when I talked to him, he told me, I have no defense. He told me, I have no defense. You do with me whatever you want. I cannot defend. It was wrong. What I did was wrong. Yeah? I am also conscious. My good friend Ayub, I'm also conscious that since independence, there is nobody from Nyanza who has ever been CDF. And it also played in my mind that I don't want a situation where a whole community think they cannot occupy a certain office. So many things that are part of my system overweighed the mistake he had done.
Okay.
You know, so I want to tell you that I make very sensitive appointments. I make very deliberate appointments.
Nevertheless, I have carefully listened to the issues raised by my friend, the Honorable Raila Odinga. In times like this, it is not about who is right or who is wrong. Like Winston Churchill said, I dare say, and I quote, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but it is also what it takes to sit down and listen. I have always been ready to engage Kenyans of all walks of life, including elected and appointed leaders from across the political divide and the religious fraternity, on how to make our country better and prosperous. And in the last 6 months, I have talked to many religious leaders. I have talked to many elected leaders from across the political divide. My door still remains open for honest, objective,